Okay, so it's I'll do some editing, but when you click record, it just starts automatically?
Yeah, and you'll have to just kind of trim it on the front side. But I'd say from this point forward, like,
Yeah.
boom,
Okay,
go.
good. Perfect. All right. So I'll let 10 seconds go because usually I have like an intro that comes with the thing with editing. So, okay, I'll just clap my hands and then,
And what's nice about Zoom, by the way, is Zoom records only an audio version for you too, if you want.
just a sec. Just got a message from my boss. Sorry, what you said?
I said what's nice about Zoom also is it separates audio and video. So you'll have an when you click stop on this in the save folder, it'll have an audio only version.
Cool. Right. Good. So I'll clap my hands. 10 seconds. Hello there, partners, and welcome to another edition of the Sales and Marketing Expert Capsule. As usual, I'm your host, Maxime Provencher, Program Lead for SherWeb's Partner Success Department. And today we're doing something different. In the previous capsules, we were discussing about SherWeb's product and some tactics on how to sell the products, but now we're going to start diving into marketing. And to help me with this task today, I have a very special guest, Mr. Chris Weiser, CEO of the Weiser Agency. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Good, Max. How are you doing today? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm doing very good. Thanks for you to come. I know you're a very busy man. I really appreciate it. So to get started, Chris, give people an overview of your experience in the industry because it's quite impressive. And yes, tell us what you're all about.
I need to record that so I can play it back for my wife all the time, like just on loop, right? Yeah, great to be here today. For those of you that don't know me, a lot of people in the industry have become to know me in the last couple of years through Facebook and social media and those different things. But I owned a large MSP in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin market in the States for about 10 years, sold that MSP in 2015, mid-2015. I think that's a goal that many of us aspire to do. That was one of the goals that I had when I set out starting my MSP. And so achieved that goal and have since then built a sales and marketing coaching firm to where I work with current MSPs from large to small. I think so my largest one is about 125 employees. My smallest one is one. So we have various different companies that we work with, but my whole mindset is sales first, sales and marketing first. If we learn how to sell, and market, we can sell anything, including IT services, and we can take those exact same pieces, those same concepts, everything that we're working on, we can pick it up and translate it across any product. And it's especially important for all of you listening to this today, because while you're MSPs today, 5 years from now, you're probably going to be managed security providers or potentially something else. So it's really important to understand how to market and sell and build a stream of leads that you can turn into revenue.
Great, absolutely. So it's going to be very interesting because the majority of partners, SherWeb partners, are MSPs, but there are a lot of partners right now who are still making the switch from break fix to managed services. And we're looking forward to see what you have to say about how to work that transition and also how to market yourself to do that transition. So
Sure.
Take it away.
Okay. So one of the things that's really, really critical here is understanding that as we move toward further in the future from 2017 to 2018 and now we're in 2019, it's a completely different world than it used to be. When I first started marketing my MSP, I was doing a majority of direct mail. I mean, that was a lot of stuff we did. I was back in the mid 2000s, and Facebook didn't realistically exist. LinkedIn didn't exist at all. A lot of these medium that we're using today didn't have really a presence. YouTube wasn't very big. Like, there's all these things that didn't really exist back then. So you had to do very traditional marketing methods. Those things worked. Long form sales letters worked. All those different types of things worked. But as you go, you have to think about the new things of today. And that kind of brings me to the next question, that you need to ask yourself this. I mean, a lot of times I do this presentation live, so there's a lot of raise of hands kind of thing, but how many of you are actually optimizing for Google SEO? Some people are, some people don't even care. This is a mission critical thing. You guys need to do this. SEO is very, very important because, and here's why Google is important, whether it's Google SEO or Google AdWords, it's very important because of the position of the target in your funnel and the warmth of that lead. If you think about how warm they are, if you're going after them, they're not warm at all. They're ice cold for the most part, unless you somehow nurtured them, which many people don't. They're expecting to just pick up the phone or make a stop by and get a lead. But what's nice about Google is, especially SEO, but Google SEO and Google AdWords pay per click, they're searching for something. They're actively out there looking for something. And if they find you, their position in the sales cycle, or the funnel as they call it, is far better than if you were to go after looking for them. Sales is all a matter of positioning. It's very much about that. So, excuse me a second. Google SEO is really important because it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You have to optimize, you have to work on it, but you're not paying for the traffic. You're not paying for the people to find you. And that is very controllable based on the amount of effort and time and other pieces that you put into it. So Google SEO, that's your search engine optimization. Really critical. Probably the number one thing on my list, right? You can see it's number one. Google AdWords is number two on that. It's still very important. Now the challenge with it is it costs money, and it costs regular money. And one of the things that MSPs do not do is a historical thing. I see this across the board. Nobody spends any money on marketing. They don't believe in it. They don't think it's an important thing. You need to be looking at it. And a good baseline number that I tell people is earmark 10% of your MRR. Your monthly recurring revenue is a really good budgetary number. It's not that huge usually. And if it's decent size, then it's something. You know, if you have $25,000 a month of recurring revenue, you have $2,500 a month of marketing budget. So
absolutely. That's definitely the way to go, to set a percentage of your recurring revenue.
It's something that I've actually never heard before. A lot of people talk about gross revenue and all these different things, but that's so hard to control. If you're a break-fix shop, your gross revenue is really very skewed when it comes to that number, because you have what's your cost of goods sold, what's your margin? There's not a lot of margin in hardware anymore. The margin's in services and recurring revenue. So that's why I tell people to earmark that and look at it that way. And it's a good, now keep in mind, that should never be your max. That should be your starting point. And some of this stuff's going to be tough, depending on the market you're in. And, we're talking to people all over the world on this web/podcast we're doing. Depending on the market you're in, I have a friend of mine in Los Angeles. He spends $16,000 US a month on pay-per-click Google AdWords in Los Angeles. Now it's second biggest city in the nation, with a lot of competition. He's going after higher level companies, so the cost per click and the bid price is very, very high. I have another guy that's in the San Francisco Bay Area. That's a smaller MSP. He's actually south of San Francisco. He spends $2,500 a month, and he gets a lot of leads off of it. So it depends on your market, and it depends on how good you are at it, but you need to put some time into it. And the other thing that's a challenge, almost all MSPs want this set it and forget it model. These things take work, folks. None of this stuff is, I'm going to bring in an SEO guy and I don't have to touch him for a month. It doesn't work that way. You have to work on this stuff. You have to commit yourself to, you heard me say sales and marketing mindset first. You have to have that mindset. It's really critical, because if you don't immerse yourself in it, you're going to suck at it. That's literally true with anything in life.
Absolutely.
Right? Gotta let you keep going.
Absolutely. You got to manage your own expectations also. This is a long-term thing. And while you come into the process of starting to do some marketing efforts, you expecting results in the short run will set you up for failure. You need to have a long-term perspective and to work hard at it.
And the best time to start this stuff was the day you started your company. Absolutely. But the second best time is today. So if you're not doing any of this stuff, you have to start working on it, and you have to start spending time on it. And you're absolutely right. This is, my students and clients give me a hard time because I'm always saying marathon, not a sprint. This is a marathon, not a sprint. You have to consistently execute for a lot of stuff for a long time. And it's not a joke, and it's not even remotely passive. It has to be that way. I look at it very similar to, I am an overweight person, and I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to lose 100 pounds. You don't lose 100 pounds on day, you don't go to the gym 2 days in a row and all you're like, why didn't I lose all the weight? Doesn't work that way. This is a long-term process and it takes a long time. So that's important stuff to look at. Other things to look at: are you posting on your Facebook page? Are you using Facebook as a medium? So many people tell me, Chris, Facebook does not work for B2B. This is absolutely a fallacy, and it is a mindset belief that you probably have or that the general community has. For the most part, your Facebook page doesn't get a lot of organic reach, but most of you, and Max, you can attest to this because this is how we met, most people see that I have a large Facebook group that's actually the largest Facebook group in the IT and MSP community. It's almost 5,000 CEOs. All business to business. I get all of my leads, all of my marketing leads. I'm talking to Max because of all this. 100% generated off of Facebook, and it works really, really well. Now, we also use LinkedIn. We also use some other medium. And people ask me, Chris, okay, why Facebook? You're so committed on Facebook. It has nothing to do with the fact that people are consumers on it, and everything to do with the amount of screen time that everyone spends on it. If you think about your own behavior, what other social media platforms are you on that you spend any amount of time on? People leave Facebook literally up on their computers all day, and it's just running. People have apps on their phone, and they're in Facebook scrolling incessantly through it. There's no other platform that's like that. Excuse me, sorry, I have a little cold, so I'm a little bit coughing today. But the amount of screen time that they spend is something that you can utilize and take it to your advantage. And the bottom line is, if you're going to market and sell, you have to go where your prospects are, period. You have to do that. And if you believe otherwise, it's not going to succeed. Okay.
Building awareness is all about exposure. You
Absolutely.
want to get the maximum exposure for your budget. And Facebook is great for that, as you said, because people use it on a daily basis on their personal level. So if they see something though that is linked to their business, doesn't mean they won't interact with it.
And if you think for 1 second, CEOs of big companies don't use this, find one and spend some time with them and watch as they have their phone and they're on Facebook. And I have people that I've hung out with that are big time players that spend a lot of time sitting on Facebook. They're executives. They make decisions on Facebook. They do all this other stuff. So it definitely is a B2B play, is my point. Now, your Facebook page itself is not getting a lot of organic reach anymore. When I talk about organic, 2 years ago, you could build a Facebook page and get a lot of traffic to that page. That's a business page, not your personal profile, but your business page. Facebook's since said, we're not going to really do that anymore. We're not going to give you all this free traffic. We're going to force you to spend money on that, which is where Facebook ads come into play. So ask yourself, are you doing any of these specific, went too far. Are you doing any of these specific things? And if the answer to all four of these are, or even one or two, you need to be doing all four. You need to spend time on these, and this is an important thing. So the other question you have to ask yourself is, will my product sell online? And the thing that's important about this is you have to not necessarily look at selling the product, but your goal as a high-level managed service provider or even a break-fix shop, you are looking for nothing more than a consult. You want a 15-minute meeting. You want to get them to have a taste of you, and that's about it. You are not going to sell managed services online. You are not going to sell, you might sell a computer, maybe, but that's not ultimately your goal. Like if you're actually using a Facebook ad or your Facebook page and advertising a break-fix computer store shop, okay, that's fine, but that's ultimately not going to allow you to sell your company because that's not very valuable. The real money in your company is long-term contracted recurring revenue. That's the big deal, and it's higher ticket products. So this is kind of a little guide that I have that talks about the online marketing business guide is kind of made it, and it talks about the easiness to sell of things online, and this is Facebook across the board, all the way to the things that are harder. And the bottom line is, if you look on, some of you can't see on the screen, so you're listening on the podcast, but on the left side of this is everyday retail products there, and on the far left side, they're very easy to sell. There's less time required to make the sale. There's less sales skills needed, and there's lower reward. I'll just take, for example, something super simple like dental services. Very easy. Everybody needs it. And I also look at how many people in my audience need that type of service. Well, pretty much everybody, for the most part anyway, anybody that's going to be in your customer market is going to have teeth. So dentist is going to be really, really there because there's a ton of clients. Now you think if you move all the way to the right side, harder to sell, more time to make the sale, more sales skills needed, but there's much higher reward, your higher ticket items. I'll take, for example, managed services. Now, it takes a lot of skill, but it's pretty high ticket if you think of all those things in together. But then you start to ask yourself the same question related to the dentist. How many people actually need my service? Well, that pool just dramatically decreased. And that's where the list and the message and all these things become really, really important here. So it's good stuff to think about, and it's really important. So the bottom line is, do not try and sell your product online. Sell your expertise, build your value, show that you are a trustworthy, build rapport, build authority and expertise. Video is so good for that. We'll go through that a little bit more as we go here. But those things are really, really important, and it's just a mission critical thing to think about. So your overall theme for 2019 should be focusing on social. That's, obviously Google AdWords, Google pay-per-click isn't necessarily social, but people are still searching, and that's why it's important. But you need to really think about how important Facebook is, how important LinkedIn is, and making sure you have those things in your plan. So a lot of people ask me, Chris, what is the best fit for a managed service provider? Is it Facebook, period? And I absolutely will tell you, if you do not have a Facebook presence, spend 3 months. And you're like, oh my God, I got to spend 3 months. No, spend 3 months educating and nurturing your audience. Give them, and this is not just on your Facebook business page, but also realize that because that Facebook business page doesn't have a lot of organic traffic, you need to include your personal profiles here as well. If you guys want to friend me on Facebook, my personal profile, my Chris Weiser personal profile, we do about 95% of my education and nurturing through that personal profile. And I purposely go out and friend prospects. Max, we're friends on Facebook. We chat on Facebook, right? I mean, that's all real. And I think actually you get a good chance to see, because you see all the posts that are made by my team. And a lot of people think that's me actually out there doing that. That's actually not me doing that on my personal profile. I have a social media strategist that works for me. This is a part of our marketing sequence. It's a part of our marketing campaign by design. All those things are there. And I'm really focused on building communities. So that building a community is directly related to my personal Facebook profile. I have people that are commenting, and Max, you can also attest to this. You see the posts that I put up, we're getting 30, 50, 100, 200 comments, engagement on my comments, shares, likes on pictures we put up. We actually just dropped a question a couple weeks ago. There was that controversial Gillette commercial that came out about, some of you guys that are listening may reference that. If you don't know it, just look on YouTube and look at the Gillette commercial from 2019. Super controversial. We dropped a question. What do you think about it? Literally 100 comments. People commenting, engaging. I go out in public now. People see me that know me a little bit or know me from my Facebook profile or my Instagram profile. They literally come up to me, talk to me. They're like, you're unbelievably successful. You got so much stuff going on. And especially if I walk around like an MSP event or show, it's really important. So building that community builds expertise. So you have to do that. You have to get out there and get video and all these other things and be pretty comfortable with it. So also, what about LinkedIn? You need to make sure that you're showing business owners and other staff how to be better at business. Educate them. Really use this. Stop dropping things about cybersecurity. I mean, that stuff's okay to a point, but nobody's going to literally buy from you because you're telling them how important the latest breach is to be aware of. You have to educate them on the why they need to do this. Some of the things that you could talk about today related to cybersecurity online. It's a huge opportunity right now, by the way. Everybody's getting breached, hacked, compromised, all those different things. There's an opportunity. If you're not thinking security first in 2019, you need to really do that. That's a very vital thing.
Absolutely.
What was that?
I could not agree more. I could not agree more with that. And just to go on what you said, definitely, if you're going to do some content on LinkedIn and Facebook, don't make it really about the technology. Make it about how the technology can solve business problems. That's what stakeholders at your end users, your prospects, that's what they're concerned about.
Absolutely. Find a pain that they have and solve it. Max, you're spot on with that. And Max, it's funny because Max and I don't really sit around and talk marketing, but we both understand social and understand all the things and it's very clear. We have very similar viewpoints. So you have to educate people, get in their heads, solve the whys, solve their pains, find the pains they have and solve them. That is very, very important things to do. And a lot of times getting even in their head isn't necessarily related to cybersecurity or tech or anything related to your niche. Find out what they need the most. Find out what your prospect, who's your ideal prospect. And in business, I don't care if it's tech, cybersecurity, whatever it is. I don't care any of that stuff. It doesn't even matter. But in business, what things do they need the most? And I'll give you a great example of this. I have a client in the Midwest. She wanted to go into the financial wealth management vertical. We surveyed 40 wealth managers, decision makers. We surveyed them and asked them, what are the biggest operational challenges you have? Their biggest operational challenges, surprisingly, they want to use social media and they feel that they can't because they're not allowed to do it and be, basically it's not against compliance. Or it's not compliant for them to do that. So like, that was something that realistically has nothing to do with tech, but has everything to do with educating the client on how they can use social media in a compliant way to generate new leads for their business. And that's how you can, so when you ask them, hey, this is something I really, really want to know, then you get in front of them, that's really critical. So it's important to ask them what they want to know. Also, next thing here, YouTube. Massive these days, absolutely monstrous. Educate people, build a channel, show your expertise, show all of these things that you can do, get your personality out. Those of you that are watching this on video right now, look how animated I am. This is practiced, it's rehearsed, this is by design. I now learn to speak to the camera. It's not easy to sit here and look into a camera. I'm looking at the camera, I'm not looking at the screen. Screen's down here. If I do that, what happens? If I look at the camera, then I speak into you. The eyes tell the story. So you have to get good at this. You have to get good at enunciation. You have to get good at presenting. You can't just be this, yeah, I like cybersecurity and it's a really good thing. Like, you can't be a robot on video. You have to be animated. And if you think about, if you remember like Extreme Home Makeover that was on, one of the guys came from TLC's, one of their shows called Trading Spaces. His name was Ty Pennington. This guy literally got on Extreme Home Makeover to be the host by just being this crazy out animated guy. He's all doing all this stuff all the time and being crazy. That was his signature thing. And that's how he was a good looking guy that was a good carpenter and all that other stuff, but he became the host of Extreme Home Makeover because he was dynamic on film. So you have to do those things. I know it's hard. Like, none of this stuff is super easy because it doesn't come natural to you. It didn't come natural to me either. But everything that works in life is challenging and comes with adversity. So, and if you're going to be good at stuff, and if you're going to reach for things where you've never been before, you have to do things that you've never done before. It's literally that simple.
Definitely. And what's great about video, some people might think that, you need a top-notch camera and, a set with some lighting. It's not true. Your webcam will suffice. You have tools like this, like Zoom, will get you great quality. It's all about the content and exactly
and stop using that stuff as an excuse or a reason in your own head, justification to, I'm not going to do that. And Max, you and I are sitting here working on some higher level stuff, but I'm on a $150 4K Logitech Brio camera. I have a $80 Amazon ring light that's in front of me. And if you see that there's a light in front of me, you can see the shadow. People don't think that. They're like, oh, you really are that. And it's an amber light, so it keeps me not looking like a ghost. It's not a white light. And then I have like a $150 microphone here. So this is not high-end stuff. You spend a couple $100 max, and you can have yourself a hell of a setup. And we also have these things in our hand all the time. That's a cell phone. I got an iPhone 10 XS or XS Max here, 10S Max. Shoots full 4K 60 frames per second video. I shoot all of my recorded content on my iPhone. I edit it on my iPad. I airdrop it to my iPad. I got a brand new iPad Pro. I airdrop it to my iPad and I edit everything there. And you can do so much now. You can do, yes, if you're going to do a movie, you probably need a PC. But other than that, there's just no excuses anymore. You can upload directly to YouTube. You can do all this stuff on a mobile phone, an iPad, a PC. I got a tripod sitting here. I got a lapel mic sitting here. That's all you need, folks. That's all you need. So Max, spot on saying that. But make sure you build a channel of how-to. Like, teach people how to do stuff. If you think about some of the best YouTube channels out there, one of my favorite ones, I'm a big golfer. One of my favorite ones is this Rick Shields Golf. And all he does is demo clubs all day. And I just like to see him demo clubs. That's what he does. And he's got like 8 million followers because he's built a channel of how to. Like, here's how to fix your slice, or demoing clubs, or all this other stuff. Like, I watch it all the time. I like it. It's good. He does a good job. It's easy, right? So think about that and apply it to what your client needs the most and build that channel. So overall, do you see an overall theme? This is all about education. This is not about selling a service. It's about selling an expertise. It's about selling you. People don't come to me as an IT services MSP coach because I'm good at selling that stuff. They come to me because they see that I'm an expert at teaching, and I'm an expert at teaching them how to make money in their MSP. That's why they come to me, because I educate them all the time. That's the whole concept behind it. We're educating, building engagement, educating, building engagement, getting as much expertise under me as possible. And keep in mind, I've been running my Facebook group for almost 2 years. This thing finally really started blowing up about 9 months ago. So if I would have given up 6 months in, I wouldn't, and that's what most people do. Honestly, this is execution is, I didn't go to college. I have no formal education in any capacity. My mom will attest to that. She really got mad at me for a long time. You never went to college. You have no formal education. I have no degree, none of that stuff. I'm self-taught in everything, and my massive differentiation point, period, is execution. It's literally that simple. And you can differentiate yourself from so many people just by doing that, because for the most part, they are lazy and they don't execute long-term. It's that simple. So
for what you said there, the education part of things, really in today's market and with social media, really the trend is give, and the more you give at first for free, the more you'll get in the end of business.
Absolutely. I have a kind of a rule that's like, give with abandon. Give as much as you can, man. You could not have said that any better, because it is such an accurate statement. And don't be afraid of, if I give everything, if I give everything away. These people are not going to do their own tech work. Nobody's going to do that. They don't know what they're doing, especially if you focus on security. They can't find tech with two hands on a map. Like they can't. Like it's not something that they're good at doing. Educate them, show them how to do it, establish yourself as the expert, and they will see you as an expert when they need you. They may not come immediately, but it's a critical mass. Like if the more you do this, the more you do it, pretty soon the leads are going to start falling off the cliff into your hands. Like that's what happens. Now, the way to increase that probability is to focus on verticals. Find yourself a niche and really become an expert in their craft. Get in front of those people and become an expert. You look at what I've done. Do I coach all small business owners? No. Do I coach all entrepreneurs? No. You know who I focus on? Managed service providers that are $500,000 or more in revenue. Very specific focus, what I almost call a hyper niche. So if you want to focus on doctor's offices, instead of focusing on all doctor's offices and being the best for everybody, focus on orthopedic surgeons, or focus on radiologists, or find verticals. And the thing about these folks as well, they have specific events that they have speakers at, they have associations for it. Every single one of these hyper-focused verticals has events that you can go be an attendee at and be a speaker at and establish yourself as an expert. Now, it takes work. It takes immense amount of immersion. You have to get inside of these people's heads, and it takes time. Look what I've done on the IT services community. I owned an MSP. I was very comfortable with it. I moved into it. I established myself as a sales and marketing expert, and I built a community, built a massive community. I go to shows. I go to DataCon. I go to IT Nation. I go to SherWeb show. I go to all these different places and immerse myself in the community. I ask them if I can speak. Max, you can attest to that. I've asked you multiple times to speak at all your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look forward to having you sometimes for sure. You know, that's in the works.
I have to, because that's the podcast, right?
And what I like about that, the niches, is it goes beyond just marketing. I think that if you focus on you'll be working with people that have, similar operational structures. So at some point you'll be running into some patterns, right? Perhaps some common software. They have, similar regulatory, compliance that they have to reach. So at some point you're going to be able to build. It'll be natural to build your a specific offer. It'll come naturally, and it'll help you also be more efficient because it's going to be rinse and repeat.
Yep, absolutely. And it's really critical that you get in these people's heads and they understand how much of an expert you are at it, right? Okay, so you can kind of see it's funny. That shows you how well I know my damn slides, because I just flew right through that one. So now what's really important is you need to build and engage also. All those things are important, but you also need to focus on building cold traffic techniques. When we talk about cold traffic, these are people that have never heard from you. It's great to build, and here's the difference, and here's kind of the why on that immersing yourself into it, establishing yourself as an expert. You heard me say earlier, this is a marathon, not a sprint. That stuff takes time, and it takes a lot of time. It takes anywhere from 3 to 12 months to establish, depending on the tightness of the vertical. Now, if you're an outgoing person and you land a speaking spot in front of 200 orthopedic surgeons and you talk about cybersecurity and you have some bites, that can be fast, but that takes time to establish that expertise, right? It's not easy to do that. Even me, it's taken me a while to get into the IT community to where these vendors and show makers see me as a viable asset. They have to see you as an asset to put you on their stage, right? They have to see you bringing value to their people and educating. You're not just going to go up there and sell them crap for an hour. Like, that's what they don't want. They want you to educate their people. And there's many, many vendors in the space now that are doing these shows that are basically saying, hey, you could speak at our show, but you can't sell. Even if you're a vendor, you cannot sell from the front of the room. Your presentation has to have education in it. Purely, you're bringing value to our show attendees. They're paying for their ticket. You are not going to go up on stage and sell them for an hour, period. So point being is cold traffic allows you a controllable method. It's a controllable matrix, like cold calling, cold visiting, going to shows, going to events. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Cold email is a big thing that I've used a lot. Now, a lot of people say, Max, you're in Canada, so it's a kind of a little bit different deal. If you guys are in Europe, it's a little bit different deal now in the last year-ish. GDPR has come up. Canada's also real tight on this, so you can't always cold email. In the United States, which is, I think, what's your percentage of partners in the States?
I'd say it's something around 80%. So yeah, you can. Okay.
So this relates to 80% of you. Until there is a tighter spam act, bottom line right now, there's no law in the United States that says you cannot cold email somebody. If you think about that, we cold email people all the time, but we're usually asking for business. We're asking for sales, or asking to do work with them as their business. I cold email people all the time. And I'm like, hey, can I buy this? And they're like, sure. And that is not illegal. That's actually, I think that's illegal in Canada. You can't just cold email in to buy something, I believe, if I remember right. But in the United States, as long as you are not directly soliciting, you can email all day. You can educate all day. So think about that. You can send somebody 30 emails in 30 days, and as long as you're educating, you are not spamming them. Now, they may think you're spamming them if you send them 30 emails in 30 days. In their head, they believe that, but if you're giving, now go back to what I said earlier. If you give a specific vertical, specific hyper niche, if I go to those plastics or those orthopedic surgeons and I say, I'm going to teach you in 30 days how to put 40 patients through your door and turn over those patients in a timely manner. That is knowledge that they want. That is information that they're needing. And that's why it's important to ask your clients in the beginning, or your prospects in the beginning, what things they need the most. Because if you educate them along those lines, they're going to listen to you, especially over cold email. Like, this is stuff that's relevant. If you think about your own behaviors as a business owner and a managed service provider owner, even if you're a break fix shop, for the most part, the only regular email you're sending to your prospects is probably a client newsletter. And it's probably a collection of blog entries, and it's automated, and it's, for the most part, vaporware. It's not that beneficial. If you really put time into cold email, and if you really put time into the research, and if you really put time into writing content that educates them, people will absolutely listen. We do this, and this works all day long, and it's very, very effective. And we have almost zero complaints, like literally almost zero. We are literally building ice cold lists of people that have never heard of Chris Weiser or my company, and we are directly emailing them, and it's working. I also own a digital marketing agency, and we do this for our digital marketing agency, and we don't have anything to do with MSPs. We sell Facebook ads to plastic surgeons. We do the same exact thing. We teach them how to put more patients in their door, how to decrease their no-show rate, all these different things that are valuable and beneficial to them as a business. Nobody complains, and they're like, hey, can we set up time to talk? Like, we get literally about 10% of the emails we send get responses with meetings because we are giving them value. So cold email works, folks. It definitely works, but it's not just like, hey, I want to buy managed services. You can't just send somebody that. You have to, right?
30% of your email get the reply.
It's actually probably higher than that, and it kind of depends on the vertical. MSPs, 80% in MSPs. because they see, first of all, now I've gotten to become, this sounds arrogant, it's not, but I've become a little bit of a household name. Like people understand, they see me out there. So I'm getting all kinds of LinkedIn responses. And the more you do this, the more you establish yourself as an expert in that specific field, the more people know your name, the more they see that you as reputable, the more they understand. So this is all about expertise building, rapport building, all these different things. Now people get email from me, they open it and they respond, period. Even if it doesn't come from Chris, they're responding. I've built up a list of almost 10,000 opted in MSP CEOs in my email list. And we send out emails that are educating all the time and all these different things. And it really, really works. It's very, very effective. And here's the other thing. To this day, still, it's email lists are the only medium that you realistically own all the traffic. Facebook owns it. Instagram owns it. Google owns all the traffic. So you have to kind of deal with them. But an email, if they opt into your list, that's your baby, and you own that thing. So that's really valuable to use it and take advantage of it. Mm-hmm. But also make sure you're using a short offer to get a response. And make sure that follow-up message, any follow-up messages you're sending, solve the niche's pain. Those are really, really important things to remember. And just do not sell, okay? So you can see I have a couple of examples here that I'm going to show you guys. You can do a free business assessment or a consultation. This is literally one of the emails that we've used. First email, I've noticed that you offer business insurance. What's the phone number in your city name office? City name is where you put your city name in there. That's the first email. Second email, hey, thanks for and almost everybody's going to reply to that. That is not considered spam because you're asking a question. What's the phone number? And we've used this directly as it is. Hi, thanks for your quick reply. I help maintain and protect the technology of businesses in city name. I can schedule you for a free consultation on IT support and cybersecurity. When do you have time for a call this week? Now, this doesn't always work and probably needs, and here's what I'm going to tell you, folks. Don't just take this and write it down or transcribe it and put this in your email sequences and send it out and blast it out to everybody. It takes research. It all goes back to knowing what the niche is, hyper-focusing, knowing what pains they have. These things all come into play and they all relate. Lazy means no conversions, honestly. Little work means no conversions. You have to spend time on this. And here's the other factor. If you're not going to spend time on this, if you're not going to commit to it, then you have two choices. You don't succeed in it, or you hire somebody internally that can do it. I would not recommend outsourcing all these things because you can outsource pieces of it, like you can outsource code calling, or you can outsource your newsletters, or some small things here and there, but don't try and outsource your entire operation. This stuff just doesn't, nobody loves you like yourself. And if you look at the big corporations that are out there, all the way down to even the successful 50-person shops, what are they doing? They're insourcing all that, period. Outsourcing is kind of lazy and it's low conversion. Bottom line is what it's going to be. So let's talk cold LinkedIn. This is very, very important. Building your list is the single most important thing you can do here. LinkedIn has the ability to build lists. There's a product inside of LinkedIn called Sales Navigator. It costs $80 US a month, but it is a massively valuable tool. I have a bunch of free webinars that you guys can just search if you find my group or search my name, but I talk about cold LinkedIn and list building and all these different things all the time. Building that list and making sure it's vertical specific is absolutely critical. That list is everything. The best lists are built, not bought. So don't just go buy some crap junk list off of Reference USA or Info USA or whatever these other sites are. Take time and build a list. Get Sales Navigator, learn how to use it. Okay, and then you can actually, there's a couple plugin tools. I use a couple tools. One's called Linked Helper. You can actually collect you find a search on Sales Navigator, you can export all those profiles into a spreadsheet, and you got a list. Okay, but make sure it's vertical specific and make sure it's built. Don't be lazy. You hear there's like a recurring theme here. It's like educate and don't be lazy, right? Those are the two recurring themes. Make sure you offer a freebie with real value to the niche. Make sure you focus on that. This is stuff that we're regularly talking about. You hear me, again, recurring themes of real value. Find out what they want the most. All those different things. That's really critical stuff.
In terms of list size, so let's say people that get started, what would you say is somebody that doesn't have much of an audience? What would you say is the minimum size list that they need to build?
We're usually in the, per tight vertical in a specific geographic area. Now, where MSPs have a little bit of a struggle is you guys are regionally or locally focused. That's a challenge. You're bouncing off of a mile radius. I get that. So and keep in mind, I'm not saying you can only focus your business on one vertical. I'm saying the marketing message, each one of these campaigns should be niche focused. So I'm not saying focus only your business ever on orthopedic surgeons. You won't have that many in your market. But your marketing messages need to be specific and targeted at them, and then do the same thing for another vertical. That doesn't mean you'll take anybody that comes to you for the most part if they qualify. But restate your question again, just so I make sure I cover it all, please.
Yeah, what should be the minimum size of the list?
Minimum size of the list, I would say, we're averaging about 600 to 700 of quality on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And that's decision makers. That's not everybody in the company. It's decision makers specifically. And I'd say 500, 600, 700, you're okay. And then do that per vertical. If you have 600 decision makers of construction firms in your regional area, that's pretty good. And then you do the same thing for financial advisors, and you do the same, and you want the decision makers. LinkedIn and Sales Navigator gives you the ability to do all that, period.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to do it.
Yeah, and list building shouldn't be static, right? You build your first 500, 600 list, then you keep, hammering away at that list. But while you do that, you still keep growing it, because once you get through the entire list, you don't want to, get to a point where you don't have any leads to call, and then before you do some more calling, you keep building the list. So you want to build a list while you're hammering away at it.
Absolutely, and this is a system that is, the best thing about systems is they get perfected, they get modified over time. This is an evolutionary system, so you have to be working on this stuff, putting in this effort all the time. This should be, and to give you an idea of how serious I was about this in my MSP, when I sold my company, I had 30 people in my MSP, and 15, 16 of them were on the sales and marketing team. So half my company was sales and marketing. And my whole mindset was, we are not an IT services firm. We are a sales and marketing firm that delivers IT services. And that's what you have to aspire to be, period. And if you think about the biggest, best companies in the world, that's what they do. Apple is a great example. They are a sales and marketing machine, and they deliver the stuff they deliver. Microsoft's rapidly coming that way too now. They've done such a great job in the last 2-3 years since Satya Nadella took over. They've just crushed it. But they're sales and marketing behemoths, and that's what they do first, because it's all about lead gen and perception and reality, right? Okay, so moving on, and I know we're limited on time. So if you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to me on social, LinkedIn, on Facebook, all those things. My team watches that stuff, but I also respond personally to a lot as well. So
there will be a link to your Facebook group, as this is part of our monthly partner newsletter. So partners, make sure you check out the link that will be in the partner newsletter to Chris's group. And from there, I think this is the ground zero to get in touch with you.
Yeah, that works really well. That's very effective. Cold calling is a question that I get a lot of people asking me about. This was probably my most effective thing from 2005 through 2015. We had a whole team of people. We had, I think, 6 dialers on staff working all the time, building lists, smiling and dialing. And it's a pain. It's definitely not easy to do. It's not easy to manage, but it really, really works. And we use things like this where we would call and ask if they're adequately protected. Now, in your scenario, now we have the ability to talk about hackers. Everybody knows what that is. My mom called me a few weeks ago and asked me if she needs 2-factor authentication. So the fact that the general consumer, my mom's 70 years old, the general consumer is getting educated on these things. So if they're fighting a battle for you, but ask them if they're adequately protected from hackers. Ask them to do a quick hacker survey. How well do you know about these things? How well are you protected? If you had to buy your data back, how much would you be willing to spend? That's a really good question that you can ask somebody that they're like, what do you mean to buy my data back? Okay, well, how about we do this? Let's set a 15-minute call up with one of my salespeople. Let's talk about this and let's see what you think about that. That's how you get in the door. Don't just be like, hey, do you need to book an appointment? It doesn't work that way. It's not that easy. So also offer a free how-to guide and upsell to a risk assessment. So remember, going back to the very beginning of the call that we talked about, finding what your prospects need the most. If you survey and spend time in a specific vertical, asking what they need the most. Again, going back to the orthopedic surgeon, hey, I have a free strategy guide on how to reduce your patient no-show rate by 200%. interested in that. Oh, sure, that sounds really good. That's what they ask. If you have something that they really like and they really have a pain with, they're interested in things, and you send them the guide. So at the very least, you get a little purchase, and you can ask them, hey, you follow up, did you get the guide? 3 days later, 5 days later, what do you think about that? Maybe you can follow up with a risk assessment, and then get those contacts and nurture the heck out of those contacts. That's really, really important. Make sure you nurture them. So cold calling definitely works, but it needs a plan. I also recommend hiring those dialers internally. Start with 2, build that process from scratch, and execute long term. There's a lot more to talk about with that, but it's just that's something you have to do. Also, how many of you have actually hosted your own events? This is a really, really important thing to do. Your own live events, especially with cybersecurity, hacking, all these things. This is a mission critical thing to be doing these days. It's not that hard. I got a guy that is in one of my one-on-one coaching session programs with me. We started planning his very first event. His very first event's actually February 21st, 2019. We started planning 3 months prior. As of right now, he's got over 20 people signed up, and we're still 3.5 weeks out from the event as we sit here and record this. But he's got 20 plus people registered for this event. We're going for 50 plus, and it's not going to cost him but $1,000 to run this, and he's selling sponsorship. So make sure you focus on hosting your own event. These things are big. It's a great way to establish expertise. Get yourself out there and do those things. Live events are some of my most successful lead generators ever.
Absolutely. I could not agree more with that. I'm one of the biggest advocates about events. And what I like a lot about events is I see them as a lever. It's, you're doing one speech in front of 20 people at the same time. Imagine how much time would have taken you to do 30 speeches to these people individually.
Yep. And not only that, but you have the ability now to actually bring in a film crew, record this, make yourself a sizzle reel, add it to your YouTube channel, all these different things. And one of the topics that we've been doing for a lot of ours is hack proof your business or hack proof your medical practice. That's a really good, you talk about that. That's a hot topic to have today. That's just one that I kind of threw up here for you guys, but feel free to use that, hack proof your whatever. Get speakers, get various different speakers to come. The FBI will do this. Get the local police cybercrime unit. They all have them. Get law firms to come, banks. Actually, some other really good ones, local shredding companies. That's become some of the best ones these days because they're focusing, you think about a local document shredding firm, who are they working with? Your ideal prospect.
Yeah, definitely.
Get them to come speak at your event of why it's critical to shred documents. And then they will actually probably spend money to sponsor. Those same law firms, business insurance firms, document shredding firms, CPAs, they will all sponsor that event because they want to get access to that group of people that you're inviting and their ability to invite people to come to that same circle of leverage type event is critical. Think that circle of leverage, those people that are in that same verticals that I'm talking about here that are complementary to you, build yourself a joint venture network. It's critical to do. This is something that was one of the biggest things that we did at my MSP. I still do this to this day. Case in point, I'm talking to Max on a podcast right now doing a joint venture. That's exactly what we're doing here.
Absolutely. Share your audiences and your clientele with other people. Both of you and your partner will both benefit from it. So, the end users and also profit from it a lot because professionals working together jointly and they can provide, both of you can provide a better offer. You can complement each other's offer. I'm 100% in with that. I highly advise people to get involved in that.
Yep, absolutely. So, kind of moving on a little bit here, what about, people ask me, what about direct mail? What about webinars, canvassing, some of these other things that are really, really important? Direct mail is okay, but just keep in mind in today's world, people, it's funny because my wife is actually a business owner. I watch her sort her mail that she gets at the office and she's sorting it over the trash. That's how she sorts her mail. So keep in mind, you have to have some reason to send somebody something. Keep focusing on vertical. I had a lot of success FedExing specific products. Like if I wanted to get somebody's attention, a specific human being, usually this is the decision maker, CEO, president, whatever, we would FedEx them a package. And if you FedEx a CEO a package, who's opening that? Think about your own behavior. I'm opening that. I don't know what the heck is in that package. So that's an important thing to do. But be very careful with direct mail because people, for the most part these days, sort their mail over the trash, and it's a lot of cost for very little bang. You can do an email a heck of a lot cheaper, right? Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Webinars are also very good, but the challenge with webinars, you kind of look what we're doing now, you can't control when people consume it. I love them. I do them all the time. I put them on demand. They're called evergreen webinars in my world.
Yeah.
They're all purely educational, value drops, that kind of stuff, but it's also something that you can't necessarily control how they consume it. So just be very careful on that. Canvassing is also very good. I've done this a lot. And my team used to do it a lot, but it's also very labor intensive. It's logistically challenging. You know, Max, you talked about the live event and the leverage of that. Very difficult to leverage canvassing because it's a one-to-one time for dollars type thing. So it takes time and it takes effort, and you have to have a team to do it. Not much of that group or one-to-many approach. I loved doing referral contests. This is something that I still do now. I do this literally in my coaching programs that I have now. I'm asking for referrals all the time. This is stuff that we are actively doing because the best people to do this are your clients, but just expecting them to refer you isn't going to work. You need to have a structure and a plan and give them some incentive to refer you. Okay, that's where referral contest comes in. We had a lot of success with that. I have a couple free things for you guys to have today. If you guys want any of the stuff, you're welcome to have it. I have a free sample cold calling script kit that you can download. If you just go to cold call, coldcall.chrisweiser.com, CHRISWISER.com. Some free cold calling scripts for you guys. You can take a look at that. It's a whole kit of stuff that I used in my managed service provider, and it definitely does work. But keep in mind, all that stuff we talked about earlier is really critical. You can't skip all of that and be like, okay, I got Chris's cold calling scripts. I'm going to get all these leads. And then they call me and they're like, Chris, I didn't get any leads with your script. Well, did you do all the other stuff I talked about with the research and all that? Oh, no, we didn't do any of that. It's mission critical. Like that, you can't put the cart before the horse in that scenario. That the cart gets all out of whack. Also, I have my LinkedIn Ultimate Sales Guide. Same principles apply. That is ultimateguide.linkedacademy.co. So ultimateguide.linkedacademy.co. For those of you listening on the podcast, those of you that are watching on the recording, you can see the URLs on the screen. So also have my free sample marketing plan is marketingplan.chrisweiser.com. So feel free to look at those different things, and I think that should be pretty good for you. Now, one more thing before we kind of close up here. I want to talk about an ideal prospect a little bit. A lot of people get confused with who they should go after. We talked about that hyper niche or that hyper vertical earlier. Make sure you find a blue ocean. And people are like, oh, blue ocean, I understand. Here's how you just have to reference it. If you are out in the middle of the ocean, like the Castaway movie, right? If you're out in the middle of the ocean and you are in the middle of red water, yeah, we all can relate to that. That's not a good thing. There's blood in the water. It is bad. That means it's a feeding frenzy, and it is not a good market to be in. So try and find yourself some blue water. That's where that hyper niching comes into play. So anytime you're researching a niche or a vertical, and you want a hyper niche or hyper vertical down, think about going to an area where you can be an expert and there's not many people there that are in it. So if you're going to a market, for example, law, there's a lot of people that are doing law IT, but there's not a lot of people doing immigration law IT, not with a specific focus. It's very, very specialized. It's very specific. So think about all that and find yourself a blue ocean and then focus on it, execute, immerse yourself into that community. You have to do that. Look what I've done in the MSP community. Yes, I was an MSP. I understand that. But I've absolutely continued to immerse myself. I no longer do any type of managed service providing at all. Zero. I actually deliver zero services other than coaching. I train, I teach, all those kind of things now, but I deliver zero end user services now. I've immersed myself in the community and become a massively trusted, valued partner. Any MSP that knows me, they call me up and ask me questions about business, just as a friend. They're like, hey, I got a question about this. I'm like, oh, where should I send a bill? But it doesn't work that way with friends sometimes. But you got to focus, execute, and immerse yourself in that community, and you will have success, okay? So, Max, I think that's all I got. Hopefully that was helpful to everybody. If you guys have questions, I know in the following slide, you can, and in the other stuff, you can see the actual link to my Facebook group. Hit me up. I am not a jerk. I respond. Max can attest how fast I respond. Pretty much
absolutely.
all the time. That's kind of the jam. But would love to help all of you, and I'd love to see you in the Facebook group. And if you need coaching, I have a really great group coaching program that's called my Ignite coaching program. It's very reasonably priced, and it's basically teaching sales and marketing mindset moving forward as a group too. So Max, any final questions for me?
Yes. Well, I think maybe what I want to do before we wrap this up here is perhaps do a summary of what there's three takeaway points from our discussion today. So I think number one focus going into 2019 for MSPs out there would be have the dedication to value, right? So give, and be dedicated to creating value for your customers. The more you give, the more you'll receive.
Absolutely agree with that.
The second takeaway here is, I think it's never too late for yourself to reinvent yourself. Go from being a vendor to an advisor, right? So if you have a niche, try to find yourself a hyper niche, perhaps, right? Try something new, something that you haven't tried before. Try to start perhaps a new line of business while you keep going on with your core business. This might be the best decision you've made for your entire career.
I would even take it one step further and not just be an advisor, but be an expert advisor. Yeah. And just remember, and I know all of you are like tech people out there, and you're thinking about this, but I don't really know that expertise is literally being one lesson ahead of the students. That's all it has to be. You don't have to know everything about everything in that scenario. You just have to be one lesson ahead of them. And if you educate them and give them value, they will trust you. So you have to sometimes run a little bit before you can walk and get out there, but just be one lesson ahead of the students.
Absolutely. And perhaps the last takeaway that I would have is social media. So social platforms are good. If you haven't been involved in them, now's the time to do it. It's never too late. You have to start now because this is where the future is going as far as marketing goes for our market.
Yeah, I mean, some of that old stuff still works, but it is few and far between, and the cost versus return on investment factor has just reduced so much. And along with those lines, kind of in closing for me, you are in a very amazing time. A lot of people think that, oh, I can't grow my MSP, I can't do all these things. You have tools that you've never had before. I never had any of these tools. I never had the power of Facebook, YouTube, the ability to broadcast email, all these other tools for automation, LinkedIn, all these things are here now to make your job super easy. You have to execute like crazy. And you have the ability to turn yourself an expert with a cell phone that you carry in your pocket every day and everyone has. So use these tools, put yourself out there, get on video, become an expert, move away from I'm the IT guy under the desk to I'm the CEO of a tech firm that is an expert advisor.
Yeah, that's perfect. That couldn't be said any better. So thank you very much, Chris. You're a busy man. I appreciate your time today. Dear partners, I hope you enjoyed this session. And this is a wrap on the Sales Marketing Expert Capsule for this month. We'll see you next month. Chris, thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks much, Max. It was a great conversation. Actually, that went really fast and it was a hell of a lot of fun. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.